Lastly, we will talk about a plan to respond to misbehavior. For a plan to respond to misbehavior, you need to be prepared for misbehavior. Once your classroom teacher has identified, posted, and taught the classroom rules, you can anticipate the misbehaviors that are associated with them. Together, you will then be able to develop the appropriate interventions needed for each misbehavior. All behavior, appropriate and inappropriate, serves a purpose or function. As a team, you can keep data on behavior so you can identify this function and help extinguish it. Correction procedures are only effective if they reduce the future occurrence of misbehavior and address the function. Sometimes correction procedures solve the problem in the moment, but actually make the behavior worse in the long run. For example, students who are seeking attention may actually be encouraged to misbehave as a result of the repeated attention they get when the adult corrects them. Again, simple data collection will help with these procedures as well. Establish consequences that fit the nature of the problem, but are as mild as possible. A certain amount of misbehavior is sure to occur in any classroom. Some behaviors are a one-time occurrence, but unwanted behaviors that are occurring over and over will probably not get better on their own. How staff respond to unwanted behavior will affect whether the behavior decreases or maintains. It can affect the general classroom climate and instructional engagement. Implement consequences calmly and consistently. It is important to plan to deal with behavior problems that occur in the classroom. Pre-planning helps because in the heat of the moment, behavior is emotional. As humans, we may be tempted to prescribe a consequence that is out of proportion to the problem or even is unenforceable. We want to correct behavioral errors just as evenly as we would correct an academic one. Consequences should be implemented immediately in the setting in which the infraction occurs. Develop an action plan that allows you to implement a corrective consequence. Get back to instruction and provide positive feedback as quickly as possible. We want to use effective communication when behaviors begin to arise. We want to be encouraging and kind. Use silence. You don't always need to be talking. Gestures can work too. Use an appropriate tone, rate, and volume of voice. Use developmentally clear language. No more than 5 words in a direction and no more than 5 letters per word, due to the differences in processing. The only exceptions to this would be please and respect. So some examples would be, please sit down and respect your peers. Very simple and concise. Demonstrate an openness and be honest. Use I and we messages. You messages signal blame. I and we are less likely to cause conflict. Can I help you? We can work this out would be examples of this. Demonstrate active listening. Be more attentive and portray genuine interest. Focus on the individual by actually listening to the student. Ask open-ended questions to provoke unprejudiced responses. Use nonverbal interventions when behaviors begin to arise. Planned ignoring is the opposite of providing your attention. It is planning to withhold your attention following a specific behavior. Often adults do not realize that when they respond to a student who seeks to gain attention, even via a reprimand, that is still a form of attention. You want to treat a student as if they were air when you are using planned ignoring. Use signals, eye contact, facial expressions, body language, gestures. They can speak volumes to students. Sometimes it can tell the students more than words can. Use environmental prompts. Identify the location or an object in the environment that represents what you would like the students to do instead of using your words. Point to the chair you want the student to sit in or the spot they should line up on. Hand them the task box they should be working on or the materials they need to be completing an activity instead of always using words. Use your proximity. Stand near a student who is beginning to seek adult attention or stand between 2 students who seem to both be needing attention. sensory strategies. Use supports that are known to reduce the student's level of anxiety. Items such as fidget objects or breathing techniques. When behaviors do occur, make sure logical consequences are given. Even when problem behavior occurs, respect should still be conveyed through words and nonverbal gestures. All students can understand an adult's body language. Use a normal tone of voice. Speak directly and quietly to the student. Don't speak about them to other people in front of them. Focus on the deed and not the doer. Convey the message that is the behavior you are objecting to, not the student. Behavior can get emotional for everyone involved. Be clear and firm. Come up with a consequence that the adult and the student can follow through with. These are some signs of escalating behavior. There are signs that things are beginning to escalate and get out of control. And when they start, we have a feeling of being pressured to hurry up and do something to get it back under control. We want to resort to some of those signs, some of those interventions that I just talked about. But some of these signs are things we want to look out for when a student starts questioning and arguing. Non-compliance and defiance, verbal abuse towards other students or towards staff members, disruption, bothering others, destruction of property, limit testing, avoidance or escape, and off-task behavior. These are those same type things, but in phases of escalating behavior. So a student may seem calm, and then they may get triggered. Sometimes you may see the trigger, sometimes you may not. Trigger may even occur before a student comes to school. It may occur on the school bus or van. It may occur outside before they come in. Then you may see a student get agitated. That may escalate to the point where you see the peak. That's where the behaviors are the worst. And then you see the de-escalation. That's when you need to put in some de-escalation techniques. And then you see the recovery. So some de-escalation techniques. You want to be empathetic and judgment-free when you try to de-escalate a student. Again, we talk about this all the time, but behavior is very emotional. It's emotional for a student, but it is very emotional for an adult too. We are all human. We all have feelings. We always want to focus on what the student is doing, not what the actual action is. Be mindful of a student's personal space. You are trying to de-escalate a student, not make something occur again. Use non-threatening nonverbals. Remain calm and rational. Redirect or ignore challenging questions that lead to power struggles. And remember, you don't always need to keep talking. You can turn your voice off. You can just listen. Offer concise and respectful choices and consequences. And allow for silence, reflection, and decision-making. Remember, this is the de-escalation side. Be mindful of your gestures, your facial expressions, your movements, your tone of voice. Remember that the goal is for students to calm down so they can move on to having a successful day. Thank you so much for participating. I hope you enjoyed this module.